So I'm very excited to have with us Veena Sethuraman, who is actually heading learning and development in InMobi, which is one of the first unicorns based out of India. And before InMobi, she has worked with organizations like Adobe and Infosys. A very exciting part about her journey is that she has recently released a book of hers, A Pinch of Hope in the Bowl of Life. And she's also been a TEDx speaker, and she has also raised petitions against certain causes. So we will learn about her journey, her learnings, and I'm very excited to have you here, Veena. Thank you for being here with us. As we were discussing earlier, you started your career in the credit card business, and then you moved to customer service with ICICI Prudential, and then you moved into learning and development. So that's been quite a varied sort of journey. Would you like to share more in terms of how did this happen? Was it out of choice, or how did this work out for you?
Sure. But before answering that question, thank you so much for having me here, Sonali, and I love that introduction that you gave. So to come back to your question, I would have loved to give an answer that, oh, I planned my 5 years in advance and it all started with a vision. None of that happened. I did my MBA from a college in Coimbatore, and I hail from Kerala. And I wouldn't rate myself great in communication skills at that point of time. So I was very particular that I want to get exposed in a bigger city where I get to talk to a lot of people as part of my first job. And hence, when Standard Chartered Bank, that opportunity came up for me, it was really a raw role of selling credit cards to individual customers and corporates, where I would even put stalls in front of organizations like Infosys or Wipro and go ahead and sell it. So I was there in that profile for a year. By the end of that year, I realized two things. One, I have got all the exposure that I needed in that 1 year, and I couldn't have asked for anything better as my first job. And at the same time, sales is not my cup of tea. These are two things I realized, and that's how I moved to. I wanted to get into a office job, right? And I moved to ICICI Prudential, primarily into customer service role, where I had to take care of the walk-in customers, their requests, complaints, and see how to bring in a Six Sigma quality to requests and complaints for the branch that I was handling. I would say that was another great opportunity for me to really get to understand the frustrations of people, get to understand how to really listen to people to, calm them down, how to ensure that things are not escalating to the senior level. And I was fortunate enough to move up the ladder to branch manager's position in 3 years when I was in ICICI Prudential. At that point of time, I used to love to observe my team members, and I would do some sessions for them just to help them understand how to, smile when the customer sits in front of you, what kind of questions we can ask. So in a very organic way, I was always interested in human behaviors, and I would observe them and I would put something together. And I realized my team really started liking it, and they started getting some good feedback on this from the customers based on what they learned from my session. Based on whatever I did there, some of my senior managers and leaders had observed that. And later on, they came back with the opportunity of getting into the pilot team of ICICI Prudential's content development and training, operations training team. So I was one of the first to join there. And for 1 year, traveled across India to really provide that operation related training. But once in a while, I used to give behavioral sessions like customer behavior related or how to handle customers. Some of these lines which are behavioral aspects. And people would suddenly cry in my participants. They would come and take photos with me. They will talk about their entire life story. That really made me think. And I realized my life's calling is behavioral training. And that's how I had the audacity to apply in Infosys Leadership Institute without having any experience in behavioral training or psychology. And I got through, and I was told I was the first person to be recruited in Infosys Leadership Institute without an HR background or a psychology background. And yeah, that's how journey started.
Wow, that's really amazing. And I noted from your profile that you are certified in many, many different areas, such as DISC, MBTI, design thinking, Gallup Strength Finder, transaction analysis, and also you are a professional certified coach with ICF. So, what made you go into all these areas of learning, and what helped you reach the top in your profession in the learning and development space?
Okay. I wouldn't still call myself as I have reached the top. My fear there is the moment I think I have arrived, my learning with top. So this is going to be a lifelong journey. There is MCC. There is after that there are many more that I aim to look at in future. But having said that, I always believe, especially in learning and development, as an HR person, if I don't bring in a learning mindset, I would end up becoming preaching as a HR person, and I need to really walk the talk when it comes to learning. That gives me a credible voice in front of my business functions when I encourage them to develop a growth mindset. Right. So this has always been a gift for me, and I would be very curious about picking up at least one certification for myself, and I wouldn't look at whether my organization is sponsoring it or not. I wouldn't put the blame on an organization when they're not sponsoring my certification, because this is about my career and my life. And why would my organization need to take care of that? Right. So I always say this to all my team members and anybody whom I speak to. Uh, your learning is your responsibility, and your visibility is your responsibility. And hence, go ahead and learn whatever you want to learn, and don't try to put it on your organization, right? And that's the only way to move forward. So while I started this journey of getting into certifications in 2008, what happened also was, parallelly, I went through severe postpartum depression after my delivery in 2009, and I went through it for around 9 months, and it made me realize two things. One, I want to heal. Second, I want to be a healer. I want to be on the other side. And there is something about me that I need to know more about myself. So the whole curiosity around self awareness and who I am, why am I the way I am, and what can I do better to be my maximum version? That those questions popped up in me at that point of time, and from there I started the journey of getting into psychotherapy. And then after that, there was no looking back in the journey of last 9 years. I turned myself 180-degree as a person. I would, I would definitely say I was passive, probably to an extent manipulative, not knowing how to deal with conflicts, how to call a spade, how to really create accountability in my hierarchy and leadership at that point of time. From there, I changed to a person who is very comfortable in, calling out a spade. And I would be very comfortable in holding the mirror to any level in leadership team. And yeah, I could change myself because of that entire platform that I got. And my whole interest in this space is the way I got benefited. How can I, pave the way for others to get equal benefits? How can I pass the gift that I got to others so that more people get benefited on those lines? And that's how I got into coaching, executive coaching. So I realized there is a way to bring in a hybrid model of psychotherapy and coaching into corporate space. And in Indian corporates today, I do believe we have put all leaders across genders in a higher pedestal. And we expect them to be perfect, not emotional, at the same time empathetic and compassionate, but not vulnerable. There are a whole lot of, uh, you know, I would say a fantasy around leaders that we carry that is not possible. And I really wanted to break that in corporates. And that made me come into the executive coaching space. And that's why I went ahead with PCC. And today I'm in Mobi as an executive coach and head of learning and development. So this is pretty much to talk about my journey.
Yeah. Wonderful. This really resonates with me, and because I have had a similar journey of self discovery and entry into coaching and therapy. My question to you is, since you've been on the learning and development side, and you would have experienced or seen the journey of women and how at certain stages we see women step off, the corporate ladder. And you yourself talked about, the postpartum depression, and still you continued. So, what do you think will help women really stay on track and navigate this corporate world better from your own experience as well?
So there are 3 points that I think are very crucial here for women to think about and keep in mind as they go about this journey. One is, this journey is not going to be always highs, always full of highs, right? I think as women, we are very hard on ourselves. Many times, even if the world is kind to us, we are so hard on ourselves that we carry the guilt all the time. If we are doing very well in career, then we are thinking of why we are not good mothers. If we are good mothers, then we are thinking why we are not great leaders. If we are both, then we are thinking why are we not doing a good job as a daughter and wife. I don't see men going through this issue at all. So I really strongly believe this is a conditioning that we have got into, and to really pause and ask ourselves, what is a distorting belief that we are carrying about ourselves? I'm carrying about myself. Where am I sabotaging my own possibility of success? Where am I sabotaging my own possibility of showing up in a certain way? Because I'm carrying a narrative that probably would have helped me years back to survive in this world, but it is not helping me anymore. So that power to pause and reflect and be very honest to ourselves without being overcritical about ourselves is extremely important to start with, right? Otherwise, we may be overwhelmed with the feedback that we are getting all the time, because the society puts those strong, high expectations from women as such. We have a choice of deciding what to take and what not to take, but that clarity will happen only if we were to ask this question to ourselves, right? So that's one. Second is, um, I always say this: have you ever experienced any man in any meeting in an organization um, giving a disclaimer in a meeting saying, "Oh, I have a point, but I'm not sure whether that is useful. I have a point, but let me just add, and then you can decide whether this is useful." I may come across as coming from a basic point, but still I want to ask this question. You would never see a man giving these disclaimers. I always wonder what makes women come up with a long disclaimer before showing up with a point of view or a question. What will it take for us to just show up with whatever part we are carrying about us? There could be a good, bad, ugly, but guess what? That's what we are, and we have the ability, capacity to improve over the time. So why not give that permission to ourselves to be who we are and show up in that way? That's another extremely important point for us to keep in mind. And the last but not the least is, um, be the heroine of your own life. Be the protagonist in your own life. Whoever could be the villain, you be the protagonist, and you have that particular capacity, power. Step into that power, and realize what kind of protagonist that you want to be, and hence what is missing as an element or an agency within you today. How can you develop that agency? And the best way to go about it is, a part of your salary, keep it aside for your own coaching. If you can have somebody who can hold the mirror for you, for you to just explore who you are, that would really improve your capacity. And that's something that I really wish all women would do. I have seen women spending money in designer clothing, but same women would crib to come to a certification session. I would see women, spending a lot of money for their husband's certification, son's education, but they will hesitate 100 times to invest on self. If we can just take care of this, I think we can change a whole lot of narratives that we carry as women.
Wonderful. Completely agree with you on that. So, one more aspect that keeps coming up is that women should look for mentors and sponsors within the organization. And unfortunately, a lot of them are not sure how to go about doing that. So, what would your advice be, or what has been your experience? How does one seek out a sponsor within the organization?
So for me, to be honest, I have not reached out to anyone in a deliberate way to be my sponsor at any point of time. I will constantly ask the question, am I building the credibility in front of everyone? Because when the credibility, if we are able to build, people are going to sponsor us automatically, right? That has been my experience. Very rarely I have come across experience where, despite me doing really well, people not sponsoring me. If I've done well, I would, I have always experienced, despite whether they are men or women, I have had senior sponsors. All right, so that's one thing. But here the question really is, how can we build credibility? I see a lot of women doing fantastic work, but when it comes to showcasing their work, they cringe. It's almost like we cannot boast about our work, right? But that's a distorting belief. If we don't showcase our work, no one else is going to showcase our work. And I heard one of my mentors saying this, which I have found it very powerful. That is, good work is like good food. It needs to be shared, and more people are going to get benefited out of it. So to really build that voice, to talk about the good work that you're doing, and it is not just about working so hard 24/7. What would it take for women to bring that voice of credibility by showcasing their work? And a couple of things to keep in mind is, as I said, good work is like good food. So why not talk about this so that more people will get benefit out of it? Second, we need to also start asking ourselves, um, are we judging ourselves when we are showcasing our work? If our intent is to talk about the good work, it will come across in some way, for the people. Many times I see women judging themselves, say, thinking, oh God, it's all about working hard, and you know good work will be spoken by people automatically. I don't need to really talk about it. I can't even describe how distorting and limiting that particular belief is. So build a voice for talking about your good work. You don't need to talk about your work all the time. If you're able to balance between giving yourself the credit when you think you have done a good work, giving others the due credit when you think they have done the good work, it just becomes very organic and natural for you to showcase. Based on that, automatically credibility will happen. But really find out ways to talk about your work. One example that I can give is, if let's say I bump into the CEO of my organization in office, let's say in the corridor, and if he asks me, hey, how is it going, what's going on, I will not just say, oh, everything is going fine. I'll say, oh, these 3 projects that I'm working on with these 20 leaders, some brilliant work is going on right now, and these 5 leaders said it recently in this way. And then suddenly my CEO is asking, okay, tell me more about it. And that's how I'm going to talk about the L&D space and what leaders are actually bringing as an effort to evolve themselves with the help of L&D space. Right. So it is really important to build that voice in order to build credibility, and sponsorship will automatically happen.
Wonderful. I like the way how you gave this example to explain that, when you're given an opportunity to speak about your work, use that moment to really talk about your work and not just dismiss yourself from that conversation. So that's wonderful. One more question just around your journey. Was there anything that you experienced which you found really challenging, and what was it, and then how did you deal with it?
Oh, this we can talk for the whole day. I have so many examples of the challenges I have faced, and it has never been a bed of roses. It has been constantly about a journey where I would have done some mistake. I would have paused. I would have asked myself, what is my learning from there, and ensuring that I'm applying that learning next time around. And that's how I have moved forward. And I'm glad I moved forward that way, because of which, when I reached the senior leadership role, it just became so easy because there is no more mistake out there that I can do anymore. I've already done all the mistakes already. So one or two examples, but I would like to call out, especially because of the learning that is involved there, is one, there had been multiple times I have taken risk in my career where I have focused on what is important for me at that point of time. I have taken a career break in 2006 because I was not enjoying my work at that point of time. And I was just married, and mm, there was absolutely no empathy in that organization at that point of time to give any time at all as a personal time. And I just took a break because I wanted to enjoy my personal life. And after 4 months, the same organization in another function, they called me, and I joined that function because of the empathy that existed there. Similarly, I have when I thought my learning is stagnated in a certain organization, I wanted to experience a new industry and organization, and I moved to another industry and organization. And I realized in 2 months, the HR's aspiration in that organization and mine are like two opposite poles. And I walked out of that organization in 2.5 months without worrying about, will I get another job? Will this be looked at as I'm not good enough? It was a call that I had to take for my own mental health and for what I thought was important. Similarly, in another organization, which the culture was really good, but I really thought I was being asked to sell myself short. And when I was asked to play small, I was not willing to really go about it, and I had to really take a call in terms of, uh, despite having a lot of benefits from a compensation point, I had to really take that hard call to say, no, this is not what I want in long run, because I'm capable of more. So many times, being able to be honest with ourselves on these lines and giving those authentic answers to ourselves is important. Is it scary at that point of time? Absolutely, yes. I was shit scared in all the phases that I explained. It did not come with a heroism at all at those point of time. On hindsight, I'm able to talk about it with clarity, but it did come with all its emotions of fear, of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of doing mistake, fear of what if it is not going according to the way I'm planning. But there was some conviction that I'm so glad I listened to at that point of time. So my learning here is acknowledge those emotions, work on those emotions, see what is the belief underneath, replace that with an empowering belief, move forward. Um, don't beat yourself up for being imperfect. You're going to be imperfect always, and so is everybody. Embrace that and move forward. And that's the only way to become more. And because if you need to receive more, if you want to receive more, you should be willing to be more. And the only way to be only way you can work on that is by working on yourself.
So wonderful. So let me now ask you a little bit about the book that you have written recently. So what prompted you to write that book, and please share a little more about the book itself.
Sure. So from the time I remember, I think I had the desire to write a book. I remember when I was 5 or 6 years old, I would play as a journalist and an author, both the roles. I'll sit in this chair and ask my questions and answer my own questions. So my dream started from then. Um, uh, and then, of course, life happened, and the path that I had to choose was very different from what I dreamed of at that point of time. But then in 2013, I attempted to write, and in 10 pages, I got stuck. In 2016 or 17, I again attempted to write and again got stuck in 30 pages. And probably because I was sitting with this desire deeply, um, universe conspired literally, I guess. I was having a dinner with one of my colleagues in my previous organization um, after a workshop, and he shared his life story over the dinner. And his story was so powerful that I was shaken up. And I remember crying for 20 minutes in front of him because I couldn't take the power of his story. And it turned me, and it really made me realize the immense possibilities in how a human being can turn around. in their life, and how enormous things happen in each of our lives. And we don't even get to know that from others' life, right? Because we are so caught up in our own life. So this gave me an idea one night when, one early morning at 3 o'clock, I had this moment of epiphany and I got up with this idea of why not bring more such stories into the world. And I might have been fortunate enough to listen to his story. How about bringing more such stories to the world for people to learn from it and to take away that learning that you don't need to look for a page three or a celebrity for getting inspired. Many times, the person sitting right across to you is inspiring enough if you were to bring that lens. And there is always something to learn from everybody, right? And how to really get comfortable in the gray space of life rather than looking at life as should and shouldn't, black and white, right? And that was the intent with which I started the story. And I knew immediately who are going to be those 5 people I would reach out to. And I was just fortunate enough at around 3:30, I messaged them by 6 o'clock in the morning. All of them had given me, permission to use their stories in my book, though they knew absolutely I've never written a book, and this is my debut, attempt. That's how this whole journey started. Book got published last week on Friday, October 1st. So far, the reception had been overwhelming. The title of the book is A Pinch of Hope in a Bowl of Life. So this is an anthology of 5 stories, and each story, the end of the story, the climax of the story has happened in the real protagonist's life, and it invokes hope in the reader, and hence hope is the theme that connects all the story, which is the title all about.
Wonderful. So your childhood dream has finally come true.
Yes.
Despite several misstarts, but you
Yeah.
finally made it happen. Yeah, wonderful. So as we sort of wrap up our conversation, I'm very curious to know what's next for you. I know that you said learning journey will never stop, and there's a lot of curiosity. But what really is pulling you in its direction now?
Okay, so right now there are multiple things that are happening, and one is I'm getting more curious about spiritual psychology. So, in a traditional psychology, it is all about mind and emotions and integrating these two. Spiritual psychology is also about looking at from a soul evolution. And I'm finding it very fascinating to look at it from a much larger angle, also because I have high connectedness as a characteristic. That's one of my strengths. I feel deeply connected to universe and people around. I think everything is connected. So I do see a lot of possibilities for us to bring in spiritual psychology without bringing in the narrative of religion and the religious beliefs. And I see a great potential there for starting dialogues and hence change the narratives over the time in India and Indian corporates. And I've just started my very first baby step there as of now. And I'm hoping this will take me to a journey where I would end up with that one point which should be life changing for bringing as a conversation for all the people in the corporate setup, right? So that's one. Second, I would continue to work on bringing healing as a terminology in corporates because people still cringe when we use these words. But at the end of it, we can expand our capacity only if we go through a healing process, right? And for that, we need to meet ourselves. Only then we'll be able to change ourselves. So I want to continue to be a stronger voice there. And I'm looking for opportunities and learnings as part of that. And one of my desires here is to finish my psychotherapy exam that I'm planning to do next year. That's my second ambition right now, or desire right now. Third is I'm starting my next book in January, and it is going to be a pinch of another emotion and another set of stories. So this is going to be a series over the time. So that's absolutely going to be another learning, unlearning journey that I'm looking forward to. So this is what I'm looking at.
Wonderful. And, my last question, what is the message that you have? You've looked at GalaxShe and what we are trying to do. So what is your message for women who are on the platform and, women in general?
I was very impressed when I saw that platform, Sonali, because I really strongly believe women need this kind of a platform today. Only because, primarily because women hesitate to network, right? Women do not invest in a strong networking. So I think this platform, GalaxShe, really provides a fantastic opportunity for women to know that, oh, I'm not alone. There are many people with me in this journey. Hence, there is a space for me to give and receive from, where I can bring myself as I am, show up exactly as who I am, um, and still be uh, seen, heard, and belonged, and at the same time go through that learning process together. That is fantastic because I have always seen many men doing this in a very organic way, if not a platform, at least going to various conferences and showcasing their work and all that. I think your platform really provides that opportunity for women to step up and step into their power as well.
Wonderful. Lovely. It's been amazing talking to you, Veena. Thank you so much for, speaking with us and sharing your journey with us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for reaching out to me and having me here. I'm so glad that I could be part of your vision. And I'm very proud of what you're doing. Continue to do that. You inspired me in this space. Thank you.
Thank you.